one of the interesting storylines for me in terms of the offseason is some of these kind of like notable free agents that are kind of they've reached the point where you know the extensions on their contracts have stopped, and the likelihood of them being traded or going to a different team is kind of great. And two of those guys that I kind of am keeping my eyes on is Kirk Cousins in terms of the Vikings, what his future is going to be in terms of the NFL. Most likely, the Vikings are probably going to move on from him. And not only will the moving of Kirk Cousins, uh, be interesting to see the direction that the Vikings move in, but also Justin Jefferson is another kind of key to that part because it seems like he's wanting more money and money that the Vikings may not even want to pay him. So that being the case, Justin Jefferson may also be on the move this offseason as well. And depending on, again, which quarterback they bring into Minnesota, is Justin Jefferson going to be okay with that guy? Does he want to go somewhere else? I think that's going to be an interesting kind of storyline in terms of the direction not only Kirk Cousins is going, but also how that affects Justin Jefferson. But in terms of Kirk Cousins, I think he could end up probably, as we already mentioned with the Steelers. I think that he could be a good fit with Pittsburgh, with these two younger guys that may be, the future of the Steelers with Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph. But that veteran addition may be what the Steelers need this season, especially on with a pretty good surrounding team. Of course, it's not perfect, but so I think Kirk Cousins, that's going to be an interesting kind of direction. Do you think that he's going to go to the Steelers, Rob, or do you think Kirk Cousins could end up landing with another team?
I tell you what, I don't know if he'll go to the Steelers, but if he does, I would be willing to bet money that the Steelers would be in the AFC Championship game this year. I think Kirk Cousins is a criminally underrated quarterback, and I think he instantly makes the Steelers a contender with how good their roster is outside of the quarterback position right now. Kirk Cousins is accurate. I know there's the whole like primetime Kirk can't win big games narrative out there. But when has he ever really been on a team that was capable of carrying their weight? When has he ever been on a
Mhm.
team that was really good? I can't really think of a time when he's had that. I mean, the Vikings have been kind of up and down his whole time there. Obviously, they have had Justin Jefferson and some good offensive pieces, but their defense hasn't really been all that great since they got rid of Mike Zimmer. If
Yeah.
he was on the Steelers, I feel like that'd be the most complete team he's ever had, in terms of having a great defense, great weapons out wide. Their offensive line isn't bad. They've added a lot to it this past offseason. Great coach, obviously, Mike Tomlin, who never had a losing
Yeah.
record. That would be a very dangerous team if they managed to go out and get Kirk Cousins. And honestly, if I were the Steelers, that would probably be my number one priority this offseason is finding a way to get Kirk Cousins on your team. The same way the Jets' number one priority last offseason was getting Aaron Rodgers. I think that's
Hmm.
a great fit, and that should be his target destination, and I think that should be the Steelers' target quarterback.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I think that's probably what the Steelers are looking at doing. I know we mentioned Justin Fields, but I even think the Steelers would be more enticed to go after Kirk Cousins than they would be Justin Fields,
Sure.
because you're right. The team it's not. I wouldn't say it's complete and built to win, but it's definitely built to compete. And I think that can absolutely, with the arrival of Kirk Cousins in Pittsburgh, I think that could absolutely just strengthen the team in terms of the lack of the position of quarterback that they had dealt with this past season. Whether it was Pickett, Trubisky, Rudolph, it was a quarterback carousel, and none of those options were really that good, except for Mason Rudolph's maybe one or two good games. So absolutely. So I think that's definitely an interesting storyline to follow as well in regards to Kirk Cousins. I also brought up Russell Wilson. We know that, he was kind of benched at the end of the season. And most likely probably not, or probably will not be on the roster of the Broncos moving forward. I think Sean Payton is done with him. I honestly don't know. I don't know of a team that Russ Wilson would be good on. Not to be rude to his level of talent, but it seems like his days are over in terms of being a competent starting quarterback in the league. That's not to say that he can't be, but I think the problems that we saw with him in Denver the past 2 seasons, and of course the last kind of couple seasons in Seattle, um, some of those things have kind of just led up to the Russell Wilson we've seen today. So I don't know. I don't know what team would be necessarily looking to sign him onto their roster. Maybe the Raiders, to throw that out there. Maybe the Raiders would be okay with bringing in Russell Wilson onto their roster. Of course, quarterback has plagued them a little bit in terms of them signing Jimmy G this offseason or this past offseason, and that didn't really work out well for him. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on Russell Wilson? Do you think that he's capable of, still being a starter in this league and, leading a team to a playoff run and potential championship?
I absolutely think he is. I think this past season, he played a lot better than people give him credit for. If you look at things like his touchdown to interception ratio, I think he was like one or two in the entire NFL in that this past season. Obviously, his tenure in Denver wasn't great, but I think he still has some talent left. Obviously, he's not prime Russell Wilson anymore. He's not going to be making plays that, make you go, wow. But I think he has a good arm, and I think he can read a defense, and I think he could go somewhere and be really successful. A team I was thinking of, uh, this is definitely kind of out of left field, but I was thinking maybe the Cleveland Browns because once
Mm,
they move on from Joe Flacco, they're not going to have anyone behind Deshaun Watson. And obviously, he has had a lot of trouble staying healthy, just being in the games. And I feel like they need someone behind him. And they saw how much success they had with the quarterback this past off season, who was kind of like a retread or old. And a lot of people thought he wasn't good anymore. So if Russell Wilson is out there as like a free agent and no one's really biting on him as a possible starter, I think the Cleveland Browns are definitely the best team he could go to as a backup because Deshaun Watson will almost likely guaranteed miss time at some point this coming season because he's missed time every season since he's been traded to Cleveland. Um, that's a loaded team, great wide receivers, great offensive line, great running game. Their defense obviously failed them big time in the playoffs, but they were pretty good throughout most of the regular season. I think Russell Wilson, if he wants a chance to prove himself and say, I still have something left in the tank, go to the place that revived Joe Flacco's career. I
yeah.
think they can do the same thing for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think something you made a really good point in terms of like Cleveland. I think that would be a really good spot for him is a lot of times like Russell's success was coupled with a strong defense. And especially you saw that in Seattle. And Cleveland has been stellar when it comes to the defensive side of the ball, other than their one playoff game that was not so great these past couple weeks ago against the Texans. But other than that, they've had a really good, stellar defense with Myles Garrett and some of those others that were on that team. Russell could really thrive in that system. But I think you're absolutely right. If there's anyone that can kind of resurrect his career, Kevin Stefanski did a really good job with Joe Flacco. So if Russell Wilson ends up going to Cleveland, or if that ends up being something that's on his radar and something that he wants to kind of pursue, I think that could be a really good fit for him behind Deshaun Watson. Because you're right, he has missed so much time when it comes to injuries every season. So, yeah, that could be absolutely a good fit. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I don't think that he's starting material. And I know he had a good, not even a good, I would say okay season at Denver this year. It still wasn't great. And I know his touchdown to interception ratio was good. But the production on that Broncos team, it was hit or miss every single game. They didn't seem to have any synergy except for those couple games that they won in a row. And people are like, "Oh, are they a contender?" And then they dropped off the face of the map again. And there was those moments where it's like, "Oh, here's Russ, he's finally cooking," and then he wasn't. And so it's like, I don't know. I think players certainly have ceilings. Um, and I think Russell Wilson is reaching his ceiling, unfortunately.
I would put him in that same category as Justin Fields, where I think he could still be very productive with a team, but he needs new scenery. He needs to be somewhere different because it's not going to happen
Mm,
where he is right now. And I think
yeah.
Denver fully understands that, which is why they benched him this past season.
Thank you for joining us on the Redzone Rodeo podcast.
If you like football and you like having fun, come on down and subscribe and check out our channel for more videos like this one.
No ifs, ands, or buts. This is the best place for your football news.